Zimbabwe's incoming interim president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, will be inaugurated tomorrow. Mnangagwa appeals to Zimbabweans to work together and revitalize the economy. The strategy for economic development, reconnection with the international community and involvement of all citizens and political players, regardless of which party they support, will be the masterstroke in Zimbabwe's turnaround strategy. Mnangagwa, while addressing Zimbabweans who welcomed him on his return from South Africa, described the country's current transition as the unfolding of a new democracy.
I think you have heard or read my letter, which I sent to His Excellency, asking the President Mugabe and say, Mr. President, the people have spoken. You yourself said, if the people say I must step down, you shall comply. This is the time to comply. The G40 cabal had captured the executive in the person of our president. Orders were now coming not from the executive, from people outside the executive to implement in government and to run government. But the people of Zimbabwe yourselves have refused.
Let's take a look at some of the challenges ahead for Mnangagwa. Free and fair elections in 2018, restoring political and economic confidence, bring the economy back to a growth trajectory, a fallout of possible influx of natives returning home, and strengthening democratic institutions. Former Zimbabwean Finance Minister Tendai Biti says 82% of Zimbabweans are living in extreme poverty. Biti says the economy of Zimbabwe is on a downward spiral.
So we have the economic crisis. 95% of our people are unemployed. It's hard to imagine when you put it in figures, but it's the truth. 82% of our people are living in extreme poverty, surviving on less than US 35 cents a day, which is something like 5 rand. We have got the challenge of a huge fiscal crisis arising out of the failure by the authorities to implement a strong anti-cyclical fiscal regime. And if you look at the economy of Zimbabwe, it loves these cycles, these elongated cycles of slums and booms, like slums and booms, slums and booms. The last time around was between 1997 and 2008, a period, an 11-year period in respect of which the economy lost 60% of its value. We have had essentially a situation where in 1980, the guerrilla movement did not demilitarize. So for all intents and purposes, Zimbabwe has basically remained a securocratic state up to the present moment. And this has been heightened by the fact that at all material times, the party, the ruling party, and the state have conflated. So decisions that are made in ZANU-PF, in the party, affect the state. Decisions that are made in the state are synonymous and congruent with the vital interests of the party. And precisely because it has been a securocratic state, whoever was the head of state was the mere normative representative of this military order. And he or she would remain so as long as he or she continued to serve the interests of the military. And once that person served to stop serving the interests of the military, they would recall him. And so in a way, what happened last week was a recall of someone who was no longer acting in the best interests of the securocratic state. But that doesn't tell the complete story. The true story is that as of now, Zimbabwe, and before the removal of President Mugabe, Zimbabwe was caught up in a series of multiple crises that all converged at one particular historic juncture, which has never happened in our history.
And now going back to our top story, in a video that is circulating on social media, an entire wheat crop is on fire with allegations that the crop belongs to former Zimbabwe president's daughter, Bona Mugabe. Now joining us to give us more details over the phone line is from Zimbabwe is Human Rights Watch researcher and Africa analyst Dewa Mavinga. A very warm welcome to you and thank you so much for your time. Can you please share more details about what happened today?
Well, there is growing reportage of violence, and we have confirmed with sources within the police that Bona's wheat crop has gone up in flames. I have also just now received additional information that soldiers have also attacked the family and domestic workers of Minister Sebia Kasukuere. So we are beginning to get details about targets, violence, the looting of properties of people aligned to what was called the G40 faction within ZANU-PF, which was aligned to former First Lady Grace Mugabe.
And now we have also seen reports that the public needs to be wary of criminals who masquerade as members of the defense forces in their bid to extort money from unsuspecting members of the public. Have you heard of any cases that have been reported or any other criminal cases for that matter?
Yes, and in this moment it is possible that people could be taking advantage of the situation. This is why we believe it is important now to restore law and order, to ensure that the police do their work, and all those people that may be, according to reports, in military detention should be handed over to the police for due process of law, because it is the responsibility of the police to investigate, to make arrests, and not that of the military. So one hopes that at this moment the police will be able to step in to ensure that there is law and order and peace.
And Zimbabwe has entered a new era, but it seems some criminal elements are not heeding the call of the defense forces, and instead people are going on a revenge mission to settle old scores. What do you make of that?
Well, it is about the defense forces now, the soldiers retreating and going back to their barracks and allowing the professional and constitutional body for law and order, the police, to do their work. Because now what is happening could result in further chaos and violence if there is no proper policing, proper investigations, and proper and lawful legal arrests that are made. Now these incidents of vengeance, of violence, of retribution needs to stop, and the police need to be on the ground to prevent any further damages.
All right. And do you think that Mnangagwa will make an address about what happened today throughout, of course, the other days as well? Will he make an announcement and address this tomorrow?
That is the expectation, and we'll be watching closely his inaugural speech to find out what he will say. But one would hope that for a new start, President-designate Mnangagwa should draw a line in the sand, have a clean start and say no to retribution, allow the rule of law to prevail, allow the police to do their work, and not to have people go on revenge missions simply because they are in authority.
All right. Thank you very much for giving us more details.
Pleasure.
Joining me over the phone line from Zimbabwe, Human Rights Watch researcher and Africa analyst Dewa Mavinga, just giving us some more details, as we know that in a video that has been circulating on social media, an entire wheat crop is on fire with allegations that the crop belongs to former Zimbabwe president's daughter, Bona Mugabe. Now, meanwhile, it's unclear what the future holds for the Mugabe family since President Mugabe resigned from office. There is a lot of uncertainty on whether there will be an investigation into some of the allegations against Mugabe and his wife, Grace. The duo are accused of numerous atrocities in the country. It's unclear whether the Mugabe family will remain in Zimbabwe. The family reportedly owns a number of properties in South Africa, Singapore, Dubai, Mexico, and the Seychelles. The Mugabes also have businesses and properties such as Grace Mugabe's dairy farm. Let's take a look at some key questions. What are the chances of Mugabe seeking asylum in South Africa? Could there be demands now for Mugabe's trial by the International Criminal Court for alleged killings of Zimbabweans in the 80s? Is it possible for Grace Mugabe to continue living in Zimbabwe? What is the level of threat that the two face from their own party and the government headed by Mnangagwa? And now joining me is Love Mochuchuka, PDP provincial spokesperson, More Life, Mapechura, ZANU-PF spokesperson, joining me over the phone line. A very warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time. I'm going to start with Love Mo. Can you just tell us, do you know the whereabouts of Mugabe and Grace at the moment?
Good evening, viewers. The whereabouts of the former first family is not publicly known, and I don't think it has been made public to anyone for their safety, because there could be agreements that were reached between the army and the first family to protect them from prosecution or made public to people for their safety. So their whereabouts is not known. We're receiving different information on the social media that Grace might be in Dubai already, or some they say they are still in Harare. So we're still waiting to see when the government is now functioning. I think they will be in a position to make it public to the people of Zimbabwe to know about their whereabouts.
So you're saying that it could be that speculations are saying that she could be still in Harare, but now is it possible for Grace Mugabe to continue living in Zimbabwe?
It will be difficult for them to live in Harare, but I think it's their country where they were prepared to rule forever, and they should live in Zimbabwe. And they should also wait and stand to be answerable to all atrocities that were caused by their greedy and system that they were using to rule the people of Zimbabwe. So I think they shouldn't run away from their own country, and they should also see how suffering means and what is to be in the dock and be answerable to the wrongdoings to the people of Zimbabwe. So I would advise them to stay in Zimbabwe if ever they were good people to the Zimbabwean people.
I'm going to move on to the PDP provincial spokesperson. Could there be demands now for Mugabe's trial by the International Criminal Court for the alleged killing of Zimbabweans in the 80s?
Yes.
And can you just give me more details on that? What do you think?
I think the International Court of Justice will be looking at prosecuting him, because there is a lot of human rights violations that were committed by Robert Mugabe, and evidence is right on the ground. And I think there are different people that are gathering information and try to put all the documents together, and he is liable for these killings that happened in Zimbabwe, because a lot of genocide happened just after the first independence, and political violences that were happening in Zimbabwe. He was responsible for that, and the situation of Zimbabwe has caused many people to die due to lack of health facilities in the hospitals, hunger, diseases, cholera, and so forth. These were caused by the economic situation that Mugabe was just reluctant to change and give people a good living in Zimbabwe. So he must face all this violation of human rights.
I'm going to move on to more life. Mapechure, who is on the phone line. He is the ZANU-PF spokesperson. Now, we know that there is a letter that Mnangagwa has released to Zimbabweans, and he is mainly calling for peace during the transition process. What do you make of this kind of letter just before he is sworn in tomorrow?
Okay, the incoming president is ready to unite the people of Zimbabwe. Because he's focusing on restructuring the economy and just creating a peace environment for each and every Zimbabwean. Also to try and pave way for a very smooth, free and fair election, which will be coming in 2018. So his statements were just straightforward. He is focusing on uniting people and the rebuilding the economy.
And now, what is the level of threat that the duo Mugabe and Grace face from their own party and the government headed by Mnangagwa?
Come again?
What is the level of threat that Mugabe and Grace will be facing from the ZANU-PF party as well as the government that is headed by Mnangagwa?
Okay, as far as Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe is concerned, he is one of the founding members of the party ZANU-PF, right? And he was our president. He is a great man. He is a great Pan-Africanist par excellence. As far as ZANU-PF is concerned, they don't have any problem with it per se, but there was a number of dubious elements who were around him, who the system wanted to clean. But as far as our president has just resigned, we are free to see him staying at his home or in KwaZimba. We don't have any problem with him. As far as the first lady is concerned, the Zimbabwean people in nature, they are very peaceful and very forgiving. They will forgive some of those unnecessary things, you know. So basically they are very safe in the country, they are very safe in the party. As long as they prescribe to the principles of ZANU-PF, they will remain safe.
All right. Okay, and then just to close off, More Life, Love More, let me just close off with you. You are the PDP provincial spokesperson. What do you think are the chances of Mugabe seeking asylum in South Africa?
That is very difficult because other political parties here in South Africa are making noise that he is a human rights violator, and according to the South African Constitution, it doesn't give an asylum to people who are human rights violators. So there's zero chance. He will never get that, because according to the South African Constitution, will never allow that, unless if they just want to break the law. But as far as I know, South Africa really is guided by its constitution. So that is a non-starter.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those details. That was Love More Chikucha, PDP provincial spokesperson. We also had over the phone line More Life Mapechure, deputy spokesperson of the ZANU-PF. They were just giving us more details, as we know that there is a lot of uncertainty on whether there will be an investigation into some of the allegations against Mugabe and his wife Grace. And we also know, we are also unclear whether what the future rather holds for the Mugabe family, since President Mugabe resigned from office.